So next is properties of Fourier transform. First one, f of a f of x plus b g of x is a into f of x plus b into f of g of x. This is a linearity property. Next one, f of x is f of omega. This f of x in the transform f of omega anengile f of ax in the transform 1 by mod a f of omega by a not equal to 0. അപ്പോൾ അതൊന്ന് പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്താൽ f of omega is 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity f of x e raised to minus I omega x dx. We have to find the Fourier transform of f of ax. So f of x ന് പകരം f of ax എന്ന് എഴുതാം. ax ന് substitution കൊടുക്കാം. Put ax is t, then x will be t by a, dx will be dt by a. So here f of t e raised to minus I omega t by a dt by a. Since it is in the denominator, consider two cases, a positive and a negative. If a is positive, f of ax is 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity f of t e raised to minus I omega by a t dt by mod a. Because a positive ആകുമ്പോൾ when a is positive, if x equal to minus infinity implies t is minus infinity. X is equal to plus infinity implies t is plus infinity. So minus infinity infinity again varum. F of t raised to minus I omega by a t mod a, that means a is positive. So 1 by mod a f of, here omega is replaced by omega by a. So f of omega by a. And if a is negative, അപ്പോൾ ഇതിനൊരു ചേഞ്ച് വരും ഈ ഒരു ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷന്. വെൻ എക്സ് ഇസ് മൈനസ് ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി ടി ഇസ് ഈക്വൽ ടു എ എക്സ് ആണ്. എക്സ് മൈനസ് ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി ആയാൽ എ നെഗറ്റീവ് ആണ്, അപ്പോൾ ടി പ്ലസ് ആവും, പ്ലസ് ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി ആവും. വെൻ എക്സ് ഇസ് പ്ലസ് ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി a is negative, product negative ആവും, t will be minus infinity, negative infinity. So it is integral plus infinity to minus infinity f of t raised to minus I omega by a t dt by a. This a is negative. So using this negative a, we can നമുക്കിതിനെ തിരിച്ചിടാം. ഈ നെഗറ്റീവ് യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഇതിനെ മൈനസ് ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി ടു ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി എന്നാക്കാം. എഫ് ഓഫ് ടി റേസ് ടു മൈനസ് ഐ ഒമേഗ ബൈ എ ടി ഡി ടി ബൈ എ. ഇപ്പോൾ എ പോസിറ്റീവ് ആണ്. ദാറ്റ് മീൻസ് മോഡുലസ് ഓഫ് എ. That is clear that it is positive. So when you write a instead of mod a instead of a, it is clear that it is positive. F of omega is replaced by omega by a, omega by a. So in both cases, f of ax is 1 by mod a f of omega by a. Next property. If f of x is f of omega, then f of x minus a is e raised to minus I omega a f of omega. f of omega is 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity f of x e raised to minus I omega x dx. We have to find the transform of x minus a. So it is 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity f of x minus a e raised to minus I omega x dx. Here also put x minus a is t, so x will be t plus a, dx will be dt. When x is minus infinity minus a ചെയ്താലും മൈനസ് ആയിരിക്കും. പ്ലസ് ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി മൈനസ് ചെയ്താൽ ഒരു പ്ലസ് ഇൻഫിനിറ്റി. So integral minus infinity infinity f of t e raised to minus I omega t plus a dt. That means f of t into e raised to minus I omega t e raised to minus I omega a raised to m plus n is a raised to m, a raised to n. So here we have to integrate with respect to t. ഇതിൽ t ഇല്ല, it is independent of t. So we can take it out. So e raised to minus I omega a 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity f of t raised to minus I omega t നമുക്ക് f of omega എന്ന് എഴുതാം. So e raised to minus I omega a into f of omega. That is a property. Next one, if f of x is f of omega, then f of x raised to n f of x is 1 by minus 1 raised to n d raised to n by d omega raised to n d f of omega. F of omega formula 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity f of x e raised to minus I omega x dx. So we have to find the product of x raised to n with f of x. So first we can inductively prove first x into f of x, then x square into f of x, etc. So here also if x is into f of x is d by d omega of f of omega. So find d by d omega of f of omega. It is 1 by root of 2 pi. The whole differentiate with respect to omega. There are two variables x and omega, so partially differentiate with respect to omega. So f of x ഇവിടെ മാത്രമേ ഒമേഗയുടെ ടേം ഉള്ളൂ. So e raised to minus I omega x ൻ്റെ ഡെറിവേറ്റീവ് with respect to omega എടുക്കുക. It is 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity f of x. Derivative of e raised to minus I omega x with respect to omega is minus ix, that is a constant, into e raised to minus I omega x dx. Minus I പുറത്തെടുക്കാം 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity. Remaining x into f of x e raised to minus I omega x dx. Here the function is changed as x into f of x. So this is the Fourier transform of x into f of x. Minus I പുറത്ത്, ഇത്രയുമാണ് Fourier transform of x into f of x. So it is minus I into this one. So what is f of x into x into f of x? It is minus I 1 by, and inverse of 1 by minus I d by d omega of f of omega. d by d omega of f of omega. It is true for n is equal to 1. 1 by minus I d by d omega of f of omega is f of x into f of x എന്ന് കിട്ടിയല്ലോ. Next again we can prove if needed d square by d omega square of f of omega. Again find derivative with respect to omega of this one. d by d omega of 1 by minus 1 by omega 1 by root of 2 pi integral minus infinity infinity x f of x e raised to minus I omega x dx. So it is minus 1 by I root of 2 pi. Again we can find the derivative of e raised to minus I omega x with respect to omega. So again minus ix. So it will be I by I root of 2 pi. Here x into x square f of x. So this is the Fourier transform of x square f of x. And the constant is I by a, that means 1. 1 is minus I square എന്ന് എഴുതാമല്ലോ. 1 is minus I square. So 1 by minus I the whole square is, it is 1, 1 by 1, 1. Because we have to put n is equal to 2, so you get 1 by minus I the whole square. So same one. So and so on, we get f of x raised to n f of x is 1 by minus I the whole raised to n d raised to n by d omega raised to n of f of omega. That's the next property. Next one is, if f of x is f of omega, then f of x into cos ax is half of f of omega plus a plus f of omega minus a എന്ന് എഴുതാം. അതൊരു സൈൻ്റെ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ f of omega minus a minus f of omega plus ഇത് പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി നമുക്ക് ജസ്റ്റ് പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ളതേ ഉള്ളൂ.